My sister borrowed my identity and ended up living a better life than me, always been the reliable one. The responsible daughter, the hard-working student, the one who never skipped a family event, never let a bill go unpaid, never took shortcuts. And I used to be okay with that, proud, even. I believed in doing things the right way, even if it meant sacrificing comfort or attention, but that belief started to crack the day my younger sister, Lexi, borrowed my identity to apply for a credit card and then used it to build a lifestyle that made her look more successful than I ever was in my own name. Let me take you back to when things were still normal, or at least when I thought they were. We grew up in a small suburb where everyone knew each other, where your reputation followed you like a shadow. I was 3 years older than Lexi, and for most of our childhood, I was more like a second mom than a sister. She struggled in school, had trouble keeping jobs in her 20s, and moved back in with our parents more times than I could count. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs, slowly crawling toward a degree in business administration, and doing everything I could to get ahead without help. I didn't resent her. Not at first. I just accepted that I was the dependable one, and she was the free spirit. Every family has one, right? But things shifted when I moved into my first apartment, nothing fancy. Just a 1-bedroom near the train line. I was proud of it. I paid for it myself, furnished it piece by piece, and finally had a space that was mine. Lexi, on the other hand, was still living with our parents and bouncing between MLM schemes and random bartending gigs. She'd call me sometimes late at night, crying about how she wasn't meant for this boring life and how I was so lucky to have it figured out. And I'd always comfort her, always offer support even when I didn't have much left to give. But then came the call that changed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was at work, knee-deep in quarterly reports, when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was polite but firm, asking if I could verify recent charges on my new credit card. The thing is, I hadn't opened a new credit card. I thought it was fraud. Some scam. I asked them to send me the details, and when the email arrived, I felt my stomach drop. It had my name, my address, my birthday, even my social security number. But the charges? They didn't match my life. High-end salons, luxury makeup orders, a pair of designer heels from a store I couldn't even pronounce. I froze. My first instinct was panic. Someone had stolen my identity. But then, after the adrenaline faded and I started thinking clearly, another thought crept in. A memory. A weird moment from a few weeks earlier. Lexi had borrowed my laptop for a job thing and insisted on using my home Wi-Fi. She'd also asked me, jokingly, what my old high school mascot was. At the time, I laughed and gave her the answer without thinking. But now? It felt like something very different, so I did what any older sister would do. I called her. I wanted to believe there was some mistake. Maybe a coincidence. Maybe she'd opened a card with a similar name. Maybe, yeah, okay, I did it, she said before I even finished my sentence. But I was going to pay it back. My throat went dry. You what? I just needed a little boost. You don't get it, Jess, I'm trying to start over. I needed better credit to get a lease, and yours was already good. I only used it for a few things to get the ball rolling. A few things? I was staring at over $3,000 in charges, and that was just one card. I asked her if she realized this was identity theft. Her response, God, don't be so dramatic. We're sisters. It's not like I stole from a stranger. At first, I tried to fix it quietly. I froze my credit. Filed disputes. Spent hours on the phone with customer service, explaining over and over that the account wasn't mine. But Lexi didn't stop, because while I was cleaning up the mess, she was already living a life under my name that I could never afford under my own. She rented a gorgeous apartment in my name. She got an upgraded phone, opened more lines of credit, even joined one of those co-working spaces that made her look like some girl boss entrepreneur on social media. Meanwhile, I was getting rejection letters from banks, being denied a car loan, and watching my actual financial life collapse like a house of cards. My parents? They didn't get it. They called it a misunderstanding. My mom said, she just wants what you have. You should feel flattered. My dad told me to stop ruining the family with drama. Drama? I was fighting to keep my actual identity intact, and Lexi? She kept posting inspirational quotes on Instagram about healing and personal growth, all while ghosting my calls and pretending nothing had happened. 6 months after the identity mess began, I finally got an email from a company I admired, a project management firm I'd applied to 3 times before. They wanted an interview. I spent days prepping, bought a new blazer I couldn't really afford, and walked into that office with cautious optimism. The interview was going well until the hiring manager paused and pulled up something on her tablet. "Sorry, Jessica, quick question. This might be a glitch, but it shows here you were recently late on multiple credit card payments and defaulted on a lease last year?" I froze. It wasn't me. But it was, on paper, I tried to explain. I really did. But the look on her face said it all. She wasn't buying it. Or maybe she just didn't want to deal with the mess. That was the day I stopped protecting Lexi. After that job interview, the one where my own name betrayed me, I walked out of the building, not just defeated but humiliated. You know that feeling where you want to scream, cry, and disappear all at once? That was me. I sat on the curb outside the office in a blazer I'd bought on clearance and just stared at the sidewalk like it could give me answers. Lexi had taken my credit, my reputation, and now, my future. But here's the part one haven't admitted until now. For a while, I let her, not directly, not consciously. But I'd spent so many years playing the role of the responsible older sister that I'd created a narrative, one where I was the caretaker, the fixer, the one who held the family together. So when she started slipping deeper into my financial life, I kept trying to solve it quietly, as if I could just outwork the damage. But you can't outwork someone who's actively undoing your progress. The night after that interview, I didn't sleep. I sat in my apartment with all the lights off, reading through my credit reports, printing every fraudulent document, highlighting every transaction that had Lexi's fingerprints on it. It was like watching someone else's highlight reel stitched together with my name, and that's when it clicked. If I didn't draw a line now, there wouldn't be a me left to protect. So the next morning, I called my parents and told them I was reporting Lexi to the police. You'd think the hard part would be coming to that decision. It wasn't. The hard part was dealing with my parents once they heard it. My mom cried. Said I was tearing the family apart. She begged me to think about Lexi's mental health, about how this would destroy her chance at turning things around. My dad flat out called me cruel. Told me I was acting like a stranger, cold and unforgiving. But here's what they didn't see: Lexi had already torn the family apart. She just did it slowly, quietly, while smiling for selfies and quoting Rupi Kaur poems about growth and sisterhood. I didn't report her out of spite. I reported her because I didn't have a choice. When I filed the police report, I cried the whole way through it. Not because I regretted it, but because I knew this would be the end of whatever scraps of sisterhood we had left. The officer was kind, but professional. He told me I was doing the right thing. That financial abuse, especially within families, is more common than people realize. That hit me hard. He called it abuse, because that's what it was. Not a prank. Not a mistake. Not a sisterly favor gone too far. Abuse. A few days later, she showed up at my door. No warning. No apology. Just stormed into my apartment like she still had a right to be there. "You're seriously doing this?" she said, tossing a bank statement onto my coffee table. "Over some stupid credit cards? After everything I've been through?" I just stood there, staring at her. This girl who looked like me, sounded like me, shared my DNA, and yet, somehow, didn't even know me. "You didn't just ruin my credit, Lexi," I said. "You ruined my life. Do you even care that I was denied a job because of you?" Her face twisted into that smirk she always used when she felt cornered. "You always get everything. You're the golden child. I just wanted something for once." Everything. That's what she thought I had? Everything. I nearly laughed. I wanted to scream. "Do you even know what it's like to work 2 jobs and eat canned soup for a week just to afford rent?" But I didn't. I just looked at her and said the one sentence I knew would cut through her entitlement. "You didn't want something for yourself, you wanted mine." She left without another word. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just silence. Pressing charges wasn't quick, and it wasn't clean. Lexi ended up with probation, mandatory credit counseling, and a restitution agreement that required her to pay back the fraudulent charges in monthly installments. But the financial part was only one layer. The emotional damage took longer. I had to write letters to creditors, submit disputes with documentation, and explain my situation over and over. Some companies understood. Others didn't. It took months to start seeing my credit score crawl back up. And still, every now and then, I get a notification from some debt collector trying to reach Jessica at an old address Lexi used. I didn't get my dream job. But I found a new path. A smaller company, one that believed me when I told the truth in my interview. I started rebuilding. Slowly. On my own terms, my parents? We talk, but it's strained. They've stopped pushing for reconciliation. I think, deep down, they finally saw how far Lexi had gone. But they still don't fully get it. I don't think they ever will. If someone takes something from you, even family, even someone you love, and they refuse to give it back, refuse to take responsibility, refuse to stop, you have every right to protect yourself. Blood doesn't entitle someone to your identity, your labor, or your future. It took losing everything I'd built to realize how little I was actually protecting by keeping quiet. I wasn't keeping the peace, I was just letting myself disappear so Lexi could wear my life like a costume. I used to think boundaries were harsh. Now I know they're the kindest thing you can give, not just to yourself, but to the people who need to be held accountable. It's been just over a year now. My credit is almost fully recovered. I'm still at the company that took a chance on me, and last month, I got promoted to team lead. I paid off the last of the damage Lexi caused, because even though she's legally supposed to be paying it back, I wasn't going to wait around for someone who's never followed through on anything. I moved to a new apartment. Bigger. Brighter. A little further from our childhood neighborhood, and honestly, that distance feels good. As for Lexi? I hear she's working at a wellness store and still posting vague quotes about rebirth and shedding old skin. Maybe she thinks she's changed. Maybe she hasn't. It's not my business anymore. What is my business is living a life that's mine, with no borrowed names, no secret debts, no one else's fingerprints on my future. I lost a sister. But I found something else, my voice, my self-respect, and a future that, for the first time, feels truly mine, and honestly, that's worth everything.